Everything is working great. There we go. Alrighty. Sorry about that. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So good afternoon if you're joining us live, and welcome if you're catching the replay. So drop a comment below and let me know where you're tuning in from today and how the weather is holding up there, because here it is definitely hot and a little miserable. So we've got a massive show lined up for you today here. We're starting off with our briefing. So, where we look at three major news headlines from this past week that directly impacts homesteaders, backyard chicken keepers, and preppers. And then we're going to jump into fact or farm fiction to completely bust a massive myth about home food storage and canning that I see circulating around online way too much. Then after that, we'll do a quick comms check to answer a burning question from someone in the community. And then finally, I'm going to give you a long-awaited garden update, and specifically how we finally made some real and measurable progress against the local squirrel mafia that's been terrorizing our garden beds. So let's dive right in. Alrighty, first up, let's talk about food security and the grain supply. The USDA just released the June WASDE, or the World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates Report. And the big takeaway here is something every prepper and stocking long-term grains needs to watch. Oh man. And let me go ahead and put the link for this one down in the comments. All right, so the 2026 U.S. winter wheat crop is officially projected to be the smallest that we have seen in decades. And this is a combined result of a few acres planted by commercial operations, fewer acres planted by commercial operations, and persistent weather issues across the wheat belt. Now, while corn and soybean prices are holding steady for the moment, a tight wheat supply means one thing: the raw cost of baking supplies is facing upward pressure. So if you like baking your own bread, maintaining a sourdough starter, or rotating through 5-gallon buckets of hard red or white wheat berries, you should pay attention to this. We aren't talking about empty shelves tomorrow necessarily, but we are looking at a market where premium grains are going to cost more to secure. If your long-term pantry is light on baking essentials, this summer might be the time to top off those buckets before winter pressures hit the supply chain. Now, you can read the full breakdown of the agricultural balance sheet over on Brownfield Ag News, and I put the comments or the link in the comments below. All right, so with that being said, just something to keep in mind, right? Have a stockpile, be prepared, don't freak out. So second story here is a massive piece of legal policy that dropped from the federal government, and it is a game changer if you run your homestead as a business. The USDA Farm Service Agency just announced an overhaul to its payment limitation and eligibility provisions under the Working Families Tax Cuts of 2026. Now, historically, if you've organized your small farm or homestead as a LLC or an S corp to protect your personal assets, the government limited you to a single rigid payment cap for disaster relief, price supports, or conservation grants. Now, starting this year, the USDA is treating these business structures as pass-through entities. This means multiple individuals actively working the operation can qualify independently. And they're also bumping individual payment limits from $125,000 to $155,000 and giving you a broader definition to farming income. So why does this matter to us as homesteaders and preppers? Well, because it means that small-scale family operations can finally build a robust, protected business structure without losing their safety net when a freak weather event or drought hits. So if you operate under an LLC or an S corp, you must file an updated farm operating plan with the FSA by September 15th, 2026. So you can check out the breakdown on the USDA Farm Service Agency newsroom, and I've put the link there for you guys in the comments. So that is something to keep in mind. Third story here today is one that hits close to home for anyone raising livestock. Whether you've got cattle, sheep, homestead goats like we do, there's been a quiet and highly concerning development monitored by regional agricultural extension offices. The confirmed arrival of the screwworm fly inside the U.S. border, which has triggered immediate livestock border restrictions with Mexico. So, if you aren't familiar, screwworm larvae don't just feed on decaying tissue like regular blowflies. They eat living flesh, entering through minor wounds, tick bites, or newborn navels, and it can devastate a herd incredibly fast. The feeder cattle prices are already at record highs due to a tight supply, and this biological pressure is going to keep beef markets highly volatile. So, for homesteaders, this is your wake up call to practice strict biosecurity. To check your animals daily for any open cuts, treat your wounds instantly with defensive sprays like vetrimycin, and monitor any new animals that you're bringing onto your property. It's a sobering reminder that our homesteads aren't isolated bubbles, and regional pest pressures require constant vigilance. Now, you can follow the economic and livestock impacts in detail in the NDSU Agricultural Hub Outlook, and I will post that in the comments as well. And then also wanted to talk a little bit about our sponsor for the SITREP report, and that is Ground News.
The news is divided. Ground News puts it back together, so you can see how many sources are reporting on any breaking story, where they fall on the political spectrum, how reliable they are, and who owns them. Compare headlines and read full articles to see which details are prioritized, exaggerated, or left out entirely. Because the more we understand the media, the more we'll understand each other. Visit ground.news to learn more.
All right, so you guys, Ground News is just amazing. I absolutely love them. They're just a great support in helping to find good articles and good information. So we'll bring them up here. This is Ground News. And it's just a great source. You can tell where the information is coming from if it's leaning one way or another. So you can tell here by these little marks here, they're pretty much center, more right coverage on this article, more only right coverage on this one here. So, for example, I have no idea what the story is. I haven't looked it up, but you can tell by looking down here in the bias distribution that there's almost nothing on the left, only 14%, a little bit on the right, or a little bit in the center and mostly on the right. So you can tell, hey, where's the story leaning? You can also get a factuality score and an ownership score based on who it's coming from. And then the best part I absolutely love about Ground News is it gives you it gives you a great summary of everything in this section right here. So you can kind of get an idea of what the article is, and then you can scroll down and click on the individual articles. So absolutely.
News is divided.
Absolutely love Ground News. They're great, great source for good information. So I highly recommend it. Check out the link in the comments on your platform to give them a try today. So, all right. So it's time to shift gears to one of my favorite segments, and that is farm or fact fiction, or fact or farm fiction. All right, so this is where we grab a piece of conventional wisdom that's been floating around the internet and see if it actually holds up or if it's just bad advice waiting to ruin your day. So today's myth is that you can safely water bath can low acid foods like green beans, carrots, or meats as long as you boil them for at least 3 to 4 hours. Now, I see this all over social media forums with people claiming that their grandmothers did this for generations and so it's perfectly fine. Well, let's look at the actual science here because this is pure farm fiction and it's actually dangerous fiction at that. Here's the reality. So Clostridium botulinum spores, the bacteria that causes botulism, is actually incredibly tough. So water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. And you can boil a jar of green beans for 12 hours straight, and the temperature inside that jar will never exceed 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The problem? Botulism spores survive 212 degrees Fahrenheit with ease. The only way to kill them is to raise the internal temperature to 240 degrees Fahrenheit or 116 degrees C. To hit 240 degrees Fahrenheit, you need pressure. And that's why pressure canning is non-negotiable for low-acid foods. High-acid foods like tomatoes, pickles, and fruits are safe for water bath canning because the high acidity naturally stops the spores from growing. But for your vegetables and meats, you just do not risk it. Grab yourself a quality pressure canner, calibrate your dial gauge, and follow the verified charts for this. Don't let a bad internet comment compromise your food security. Alrighty, so let's take a look at some questions that we've got in the past, and we'll run a quick comms check. All right, so I wanted to highlight an excellent question that was dropped in one of our videos earlier this week by a guy named Marcus. And he asked, hey, I love the practical focus of the channel. With your focus on homesteading, emergency prep, and poultry, how are you balancing your daily chore routines with long-term infrastructure projects without completely burning yourself out? It feels like the endless daily maintenance leaves zero energy for the big builds. And holy cow, that is so true, right? So Marcus, you were hitting on the universal truth of homesteading. It's the classic hamster wheel effect. If you spend every morning and evening just keeping animals fed, watered, alive, you never find the consecutive hours needed to clear land, build new housing, or run infrastructure. So my biggest piece of advice here is modular automation. So you have to aggressively automate the basic daily maintenance tasks so they stop consuming your creative energy. For instance, instead of carrying 5-gallon buckets of water every single morning, prioritize building a gravity-fed or automated watering system with float valves. Like we have these waters that we actually took like a float valve and put it in a bowl, like a rubber bowl for our chickens and ducks. We can't use the nipples or the things because we have ducks and it just doesn't work as well for them. But if you have like a bowl, you get the float and you connect water to that, and so it stays nice and full. It's easy to clean out because you just dump it and then you can spray it out and it refills automatically. Also, instead of like throwing scratch grain down twice a day, which you shouldn't be feeding them only, by the way, but say you did, you should build a large capacity pest proof feeder that holds about a 50-pound bag of feed at one time. We, for example, use a big trash bucket that we have, a plastic trash bucket. We cut holes in the side and put 90-degree bend PVC. I think they're like 3 or 4 inch bend, 90-degree bends. And so that way we just toss a whole bag of food in there. They can eat it, get food out. I mean, it does go everywhere a little bit. And that lasts them a good, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, somewhere in that realm. Also, once your daily chores drop from a chaotic, like 45-minute scramble to a passive, like 5-minute visual check, you suddenly reclaim your physical strength and your weekends for the big infrastructure builds. So stop trying to work harder. Build the systems that let you work smarter. All right. So with that, come to the most interesting part, at least I find, and that is our garden update in Field Notes. All righty. So our personal garden update and our ongoing war with the local squirrel population. So if you've been following the channel or our shorts recently, you know that our spring planting has been under absolute siege. We have had local ground squirrels and tree squirrels, and it's really treating our garden like it's their own personal buffet. And for months, standard deterrents were completely failing us. We tried the standard decoys, cayenne pepper flakes sprinkled on the soil, motion activated sprinklers, which was a fun one. But the squirrels just figured out the blind spots and literally used the plastic owl as a lookout post. It was really, really frustrating. But this past week, we've finally made some real and measurable progress, and I wanted to share the two-pronged approach that actually turned the tide for us. First, we finally stopped trying to repel them and instead built a physical barrier system. So I spent last weekend retrofitting some of our raised beds with modular PVC frame hooped covers that are in a heavy duty, like 1/2-inch hardware cloth. So don't use chicken wire for the squirrels. They can chew right through that thin wire gauge or squeeze through the openings if they are determined. The hardware cloth keeps them completely locked out. And second, we realized that they weren't just eating the plants for food. In the summer heat, they were looking for moisture. We set up a dedicated wildlife watering station just completely away from the garden perimeter down near the trees or the greasewood bushes. And by providing an easier alternative source of clean water and some sacrificial scratch grain far away from the crops, the pressure of our primary growing zone dropped dramatically. The other things that we've done is put in a bunch of different types of traps and baits. So we got a bunch of we first of all have our squirrelinator trap, right, which is great. You get it at a local hardware store. I think you can get it on Amazon too. And put scratch grain in there and make sure to move it around every few days so the squirrels don't get used to that being right there. And then after you do that, they will go in there and you get trapped and you can kill them and toss them back into nature. We also have put in traps. They're kind of like they're reusable, like mouse and rat traps. And so they go into this little tunnel, and when they trigger it, it kills them right instantly, breaks their spine, I think. So we've done that. And then for the mice, we've used these little bait poison hotel things where they can go in and eat them up. They ate up, we put like 4 little things in there the first day, and they ate them up almost completely within a day or two. And that helped really tame down the mouse and rat population. And the squirrels are taken care of by the squirrelinator. So the combination of a hard physical lockout on the beds and a diversion zone, as well as the baits and traps, have given our tomatoes, squash, and peppers their first uninterrupted week of growth all season, and it's middle of June. The beds are looking better, the drip lines are running great, and the stress levels are finally back down. So if you're fighting the same battle, stop relying on chemical sprays or things to get rid of them, and go for hard exclusion and resource diversion. And hopefully those help to get you guys squirrel free as soon as possible. It has been a terrible year this year for gardening, and it's really because of the squirrels and the mice eating everything, and it's so incredibly frustrating. So hopefully this helps you guys try to get some new insights on how and what we need to or what you need to do to get your squirrels out of there and to save your garden from them this year. So all right, I see there were a ton of people that have agreed about the hardware cloth. Yes, it is worth every penny compared to cheap plastic netting. Yes. So I appreciate you guys coming over here for the last 20 minutes or so, listen to some cool stories that really make a difference to us. Make sure to check out Ground News. The link is in your comments and everything else like that, as well as the links to the articles that we talked about in the briefing. So you can do your own deep dives, do your own research, actually, right? Not just say it. So if you have found a value in today's broadcast, do me a huge favor. Smash the like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and share this stream with someone else who is trying to live a more self-reliant lifestyle. So keep building your systems, protect your flocks, and I will catch you on the next video. You guys have a great weekend.